Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Umlink Energy Speaks Back, powered by Heart. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 81, and my special guest today has the Force with him. He is a specialist designer of solar power, battery storage, ANI security, communications connectivity, and leading edge technology. And our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. And on our journey of knowledge sharing, we would like to thank our sponsors, and they are Cinefex for their insulation coating, SmartCall for their AC initiatives, Umlink, who are taking the confusion out of energy management, Park Systems, renowned for their energy software, Clean Energy Revolution for their knowledge and networking through LinkedIn and social media, B2B Energy for the 11-week energy program, and managing organizations' third largest expense. Alexis Energy for power management, led by Vision, who are an LED and controls company, Watts for their electronics and EV transition, Carbon Black Global for their waste to energy initiatives. And lastly, our certificate partners, Esther Energy. Our special guest today is an expert in his industry. So without any further ado, I give you Nicholas Ashton. Good afternoon and good morning, Nicholas. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you, for a cold winter's day in Iowa here in the United States. Yes, we get snow and it does get chilly, but not as cold as some places.
Right. I'm looking at my laptop in a moment, middle of February, no snow, 13 degrees in London. What's that all about? I don't really quite get that at the moment.
Well, okay, you've used that word climate change. It's a wonderful word, but all this that we're doing, there's only one person in control, Mother Nature. She can do whatever she wants to do, and she will continue to. But it's like today, California, that was diabolical weather, is in the 80s. And then if I tell you in Alaska today, they're at minus 50 something degrees.
Right.
That's in Fahrenheit. So it's even colder when you convert to that centigrade that I never got into, or metric or anything. I left before all that happened.
Brilliant. So Nicholas, we know each other from our LinkedIn activities. We're also part of the Clean Energy Revolution group. We're also part of Umlink. I'm pleased to say that you're a member of that and one of our very active members within the group regarding your content and your knowledge that you bring to the industry. And I'm very excited. So thank you for coming along today. I'm very excited about sort of meeting you. We have met with you, and obviously your accent is very English considering you're in America. So we're going to hear about why you're there and that side of it. So please, can you give us some background to yourself for our audience today?
Sure. Well, believe it or not, it started off in, as you see behind me, the police helmet, started off in law enforcement with the Metropolitan Police, and unfortunately got injured and decided to move on, but still continue. One of my claims to fame in Britain was back in 1976 with a partner of mine, Gary Blake, who sadly is no longer with us. We invented bomb blast window film. So the Irish were blowing up the glass. We protected the glass so nobody died from cuts and goodness knows what. It was phenomenal, still is. The company is run today by my brother. It's his company. But believe you me, he's just passed it on to his son as well. So we're very proud to not only do that side, but many other sides. So I continued, and the reason I'm in the United States was When I left the Metropolitan Police, I was approached by Her Majesty's government to work overseas in the same capacity, but work for the government. And I moved firstly to Bahrain and then to Dubai, and literally worked for Her Majesty's government under the auspices of being, shall we say, an intelligence person, we'll put it that way. As you know, we're not allowed to get into what we really did. Really enjoyed it, but I dealt with a lot of Americans, and we had a naval base in Bahrain, which realized that we had immense knowledge because of Northern Ireland. That helped me tremendously. And when I decided I wanted to move on, I was given the opportunity to come and work in America, which I continued in counterterrorism on a very different level. The great thing is, Paul, that, you know, this British accent has stayed with me. I've lived here over 30 years, 36 years, right, and I keep it. I don't know why. I don't purposely keep it. I just keep it. And they think, the Americans just think we're more intelligent than anybody else, but you and I know different of that. So we're just regular people. But the cool part was that 23 years ago, we really got into CCTV and cameras. And also the most important part was access control, but using facial recognition. So we've been in the facial recognition system with a company that is our partner called Ionix out of Japan, Dr. Sadi, who is brilliant. We've done things that nobody else has done. We're way ahead of everyone. And we've got buildings that completely utilize facial recognition. Now, for law enforcement, we don't call it facial recognition. We call it criminal referencing, because that messes up the liberals. They just don't understand that criminal referencing is the same thing. Then we had companies come to us and say, hey, we want cameras in places where there's no power. What can you do for us? So 18 plus years ago, we got into solar here in the United States, and we've developed a lot of stuff. And then 14 years ago, the US military came to us and we got an exclusive contract with them to produce just for the military. Nobody else. It was done behind closed doors. We have developed solar like you've never seen before. And we only started bringing it into the real world on June the 1st of last year. But we're doing things lightweight. You know, a Chinese panel weighs 40 pounds. Comparison, ours weighs 9.9. Ours does not use glass. You can't shatter it. These are things because the military, as you know, they break everything. So it's been tested for 14 solid years. And we're doing things in efficiency that only people can say, oh, in our lab test, we were able to get 19.2 efficiency. Well, that's the lab. It's not the real world. So we've been working in the real world for a long time. And now, of course, with the move, when the one thing that really ticked me off, if you like, was COP 26. We've had 26 of these meetings and 26 failures. The day they leave the conference, it's over. They do nothing. They change their minds. They oh, I didn't really mean to say that. Somebody misquoted me. So I believe between us, Paul, and the folks that we have within the organizations, we can make that difference, but it takes one big word, and that's educate. And although we're very strong on education, we're very forthright in how we talk about energy. And we've got to do something about it because this planet cannot go on as it is, utilizing the energy grids that we have. So change has got to happen. So that's a nutshell, if you like.
Wow. Where do we start? Pulling all that apart to understand where we want to start with these conversations. So let's talk about solar then. So you've advanced it with your background and based on the driving forces regarding you needed to be more remote. So you had to have remote systems. That's where the solar's come from, hasn't it? It had to be robust, had to be lightweight. There's a lot of drivers there, isn't there, that has been driven regarding what you was doing there that we can transfer into today's world. Is that what you're saying?
Well, today we've got a couple of things. You know, don't get us wrong. We love wind as well, but solar, you know, solar and wind, Mother Nature gives us. Hydro is great, but also hydro is detrimental in many cases. Like, for instance, fish and a dam. It kills the fish trying to get over the dam. So there's a difference. With solar, the most important thing is that an example, in India, there are 330,000 villages that don't have clean water. Now, we can put a simple system in with a pumping system and bring them healthy water. We also can do desalination. There's so many differences that we can use solar for, but understand one thing, it's not just about the panel. The most important factor is you've got to have the solar panel, you've got to have battery, and you've got to have a battery system that is good. And we are very lucky that we work with Acceleron and a couple of other companies that we trust implicitly because they speak the same language as us. And then the other factor is installation. Now, having owned a farm, I always talk about husbandry, farming husbandry. And you've got the same thing with solar. From the moment of install, and there are so many homes in Australia and in Britain where panels, Chinese panels, they're overweight panels are put on roofs and they're doing structural damage. So, this is another issue. Who is it it's selling it to you? And my biggest laugh is I go back to the days of the double glazing salesman who lied through his teeth that he'd absolutely keep you warm in the winter with your double glazing. And that's the same thing we've got here in the United States. It's a complete con. People are signing 25-year leases and don't realize that if they move, and the average move here in the United States is every 7 years, you're going to have to pay that lease off. On top of that, are you really getting the results you want and the money you want? Because these companies are saying we can give you solar with no money down is a lie. Of course it's costing you. It's costing you every month. But then again, the electric companies are now coming round to the idea of, if it was done in a hybrid and a nanogrid situation, we can make a difference. And that's another area we've really started to educate the electric companies, and we're doing very, very well with it. But solar is here to stay. Wind is here to stay, except look what you had last year. You had 2 months of the year where you were a 36% deficit in wind. Wind stilling is an issue. And it's changing, but who's in control of that? Mother Nature.
Where do you think the drivers are, and where do you think the obstacles are for us to get through where we need to be?
Well, the driving force at the moment is people like ourselves, and the good thing is if they'll only listen to us, we yes, we're beating our chests, we're doing this and we're doing that, but then the biggest problem we have is money. And the money is the governments say they want to do this, that, and the other. And anytime you get a government involved or a politician, it's a pain in the rear end. Now you have the other issue. You have got the hedge funds and the investors who go, this is a great product. We can make millions of dollars from it. Well, the point is that millions of dollars doesn't help every single person. It certainly doesn't help an Indian village. All they want is return. Couldn't care less about the product. Those people we need out of the way, and we need folks and politicians. We need folks that, the Elon Musks of the world who understand what's going on. And there's a man that's so down to earth, it's ridiculous. Somebody wrote an article, I think today I saw it. We now need to make houses Tesla proof. In other words, they need to be just like a Tesla car. Now, don't get me wrong. Building an electric vehicle is not a green effort at all. It's a very costly effort. And then you've got the issues of recycling. The one thing I can say with our product, we're 95% recyclable. But then again, we've got a 25-year warranty, which we know we can afford to give. We most probably could give longer, but we've proved it with 14 years with the military. So the drivers are people who are starting to understand that the Texas issues of last year and this year of not having enough electricity. Well, let me put it this way. If you get cold, you get damn cold, and shivering's not a good thing. And if we don't have power, you don't have electricity, you are literally in the dark. Nothing's going to work. So driving wise, it's us, Paul. It's guys like you and I and Russ Bates and a few others that are out there that we've got to stand firm. And although we're in a sense competitors, we're not. We have the same message. We may have a different diversion to get there, and we all agree. And the greatest thing is we've all had some phenomenal conversations with each other, and there's no issues. But as soon as you get those hedge fund and investors in there, it's a totally different picture, and we've got to keep them out. I'd like their money, but I don't want to do what they want us to do. They can't be put in control.
When you get involved in funding, I've come up with some amazing ideas, and because the return on investment isn't enough, then it gets pushed back. And you know, if they'd made those decisions 10 years ago, they would have got their money back by now.
Yes.
We'd be on to the next funding round of what
yes.
we're doing regarding energy management.
And the other factor is affordability. The worst thing that's happened, and I'm sorry, I've got great friends in China, and I've done a lot of business with China and a lot of things, but they have completely messed up the industry. Australia is the perfect example of panels catching fire, panels just not working after 7-8 years, and try and get that warranty. You'll never get anything out of them. They've ruined it. Cheap is not where we need to be. No. We just don't need to be cheap. We want sustainability. We need it working.
You think we had that problem before with the Chinese and the LED, for instance? So we had exactly the same issue, but we've got through that now, haven't we? And I always say this, that technology evolves, and we have the low quality, high cost, and that's what we had before with the LEDs. What we've seen now is we've got the high quality, low costs. It switches, and you will see that transition with solar. And yes, I'm sure we're seeing that now, but we've gone through that pain, and we went through that pain with the likes of BMS as well, and that was back in the 80s. So we will see that transition. It's inevitable, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, but bear in mind, how did the Chinese get involved in this? It was America and Britain. We went to them and said, by the way, can you make me this less expensive, and I'll pay you this? And they did. I spent, by the way, just under 6 months in Malaysia and back and forth to Hong Kong in business down there, working, believe it or not, with law enforcement and others. And it was amazing. And I have a very dear friend who was, I don't know if she's there now, was the chief of police for Hong Kong. And we talked about the issues of China. And there she is working it every day. But it was amazing to get her opinions and the freedom for her to be able to talk about it outside of Hong Kong. But when we start looking at what the Chinese are doing, they now have come to a capitalization of our needs and the ability to deliver, but not deliver the real quality. You ask any mother who is purchasing clothes, she will not purchase them from Walmart or some of the other companies because they're buying low-grade Chinese stuff that doesn't work. It's got no sustainability. And on top of that, if it's a material that's been dyed, what chemicals did they use? If you notice any clothing that you pick up in those type of places, especially children's clothes, if you put it against your nose, you'll notice there is a difference. And that's part of the problem. What's that chemical doing to you? And when you wash it, I won't say it falls apart, but it doesn't last. So we've got to make change. And in Britain, and Britain being an island nation, with, by the way, if I may say this, to Her Majesty, a very happy 70 years. I mean, there is a lady that's led us through thick and thin, and how she keeps smiling, I don't know, with all the family issues. But we are a nation, Britain is a nation that can stand on its own. And as long as we get together collectively, I'm not talking union, I'm talking collectively as entrepreneurs, we can make a difference. Remember the days of Sinclair? Do you remember how he came forward? I mean, he recently passed on, but I can assure you it's phenomenal, the things that we've done in Britain. And then you've got the United States, which is massive, and the ideas that are rolling around. I appreciate both having lived in Utah and a place called Provo. Provo now is a technology hub, phenomenal. Here am I in the Midwest, a very conservative, and we also are a technology hub. And we're starting to work together because we're realizing we do have the answers, but it's the way you present those answers and the way we have those conversations. Now, you and I can get as ticked off as we want about things, and we can get very, very vocal. But because we're passionate, because we've understood it, we've worked it, and I just get so upset in seeing certain areas of the world where they don't think they can do something. Yesterday, Ian and I were on with a gentleman from India who is in forensics and what have you. It was amazing to have that conversation. It was like we've known each other for years. Our terminologies and everything. There's one difference. I can do work with India, but the Prime Minister of India wants everything now made in India. In other words, we've got to make it ourselves. Well, why do you want to do that when you know there's lots of companies in Britain, Europe, and the United States that have already been down that path and are right there for you? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And we've got to teach people we don't need to reinvent the wheel. You need to start listening and seeing for yourself what is available.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's collaboration. We all need to be working together. And, the COVID has brought the world a lot of unsettlement, a lot of uncertainty around the world. But what it has done, it's opened communication links. It's made the world smaller. I think looking back on this 2 years ago, would you and I have met? Yes, we would have met on LinkedIn, but we wouldn't have Zoom called as many times as we have done. We wouldn't have opened the opportunities of communication with each other and sharing ideas. And the platforms that have come off the back of it, yes, we share a lot of information on LinkedIn, but we've got Umlink now that opening the channels for communications and taking all that confusion away. But we're taking that confusion away by sharing and collaborating, which I think is so important nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Well, collaboration, yes. And one of the things Ian and I laugh about is that we do a lot of 15-minute phone calls or Zoom calls, okay? And the point is we can overcome any issues or a discussion within that time frame or less. A client may come up with something that they go, can we do this? And Ian and I know we can do it, but we always discuss because he may have an idea and I have an idea too, and we put the two together. We're doing things with solar that nobody else has done. How would you like to have a farm or even a property that your fence is actually solar? Our panel, for instance, is non-destructible. You can drive over it. We have Humvees drive over it. We can literally put them anywhere in the vertical or the horizontal. And everybody says, wait a second. You have to have 23 degrees. It's got to be on a roof, blah, blah. No, it doesn't. And the reason and I've got to do this. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I will do it today. I'm going to shoot a video today. And here's what I'm going to show you. We basically have an undulation. Let me pull a panel up just to give people an idea of what I'm talking about. And this is where it's freaking people out. There is the thickness of our panel, 3 millimeters. That's it. Okay. Now, when we look at the cell, those cells are undulated, or if you like, got pimples all over them. So we've got a surface. So imagine you've got your potato chips and you've got an onion dip. Okay. If you use a regular potato chip, it doesn't stick to it. But if you use a crinkle cut chip, which is what we've got in our cell, you've got more surface that you're getting. So hence, when we are in the vertical and horizontal, we are getting that 26 plus efficiency. And if you put them on the sides of buildings, all it looks like from a distance is a stripe. It's nothing there at all. I've now got electric companies going, whoa, wait a second. I haven't got the money to improve my my grid. I can't build more because the government won't let me do this and do that. So if we deal with the electric companies as we are and say, you've now got 13, 14 buildings, let's put a deal together that they all get involved and you supply the panels, you install, and you charge them a small lease, you are now able to power those companies but all the electricity they were using has come back to you, which you are now able to utilize without having to build anything else. And we've got them suddenly going, oh, that's a good idea. It's logic, it's simple. And this is where collaboration of that idea is available to everybody. We're ready to talk about it. One of the aspects is here in America is that you've got so many freeways where they build a wall to stop the noise, okay? Take that wall. We now can put solar along those walls, down the freeways and highways. And here's the cool part. On that exit ramp going into a city, the real estate at the top of that ramp, we now have increased the value of that because we can bring them 24/7, 365 sustainable power, no matter what. And we can share it as a nano grid or whatever you need to do. Simple as that.
And there's infrastructure there possibly because you've got street lighting.
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
must be infrastructure that you can tap into.
Oh yeah, so the county or the transportation industry is saving money. The other one I love is containers. You know how everybody's saying, oh, we can use containers and we can change this. We have a system that we can take a container where you either can do the roof, you can do the sides. We've got a system that works and we're already changing containers. But also we have a ground station version of it as well. Network Rail is one of our clients because they've got railroad track where they've got no power, but they need cameras or they need this, that, and the other to check for liability and duty of care. One of the strange ones was Network Rail came to us and said, we got a problem. Wonder if you can help us. We want to be able to check our trains because we're seeing a lot of locked braking systems. And if you've got a braking system that's locking, you're putting resistance, you're damaging the track, and you certainly are using more energy to drive the train. So we said, sure, we can put cameras wherever you want, thermal cameras to look at the brakes, and we can power them by solar. And they turned around and went, what? Some other company had come to them and said, oh, we can do that. It failed. We proved it immediately. And it was simplistic because they had to, under health and safety, they had to spend X amount of money to put power anywhere, and it was a pain in the rear end. We came in and under health and safety, we don't need to do what health and safety needs. So we're very different, but again, look at, you use the word, we just collaborated. We listened to the client. Use your ears, the knowledge is in there.
How many times do you hear that story? 2 ears, 1 mouth. So yeah, let's look at that panel. So that panel, you've shown it on a card at the moment, on a panel itself. I'm presuming that panel can be wrapped around.
Yes.
That's what you're alluding to,
Yeah, this panel itself is one of 8. So when we do the 8 panel, it's a wraparound. So it would go that way. Now, for instance, corrugated metal, a grain bin. One of our clients is doing static caravans, and they want to be able to power those caravans, and it's a corrugated roof. So it's simple. We're already designing that. We had the meeting 2 days ago, and the gentleman in Birmingham said to Ian at the end of the meeting, he said, I did not believe we'd get to the point we're at right now in this quickly. Now, framework to apply these panels to the roof, but also to the sides of buildings, we've got 2 areas. Ian's got a great buddy. Martin does all of our design of that framework and everything else. And then I've got Brandon right 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes from me. And the 2 of them are collaborating. And the cool part about Brandon, who's their biggest client? Agriculture. So the grain bin or the silo, we're absolutely able to bring that to farmers. And also that old barn that couldn't take the weight, we can do it. So there's a whole new world out there. Now, don't get me wrong. Is our pricing the same as Chinese panels? And hell no. Of course we're more money because nobody else can do it. But also at the end of the day, you're saving a heck of a lot more money because we're bringing it to the point that you need. That is, the point of power. We can bring it anywhere you want.
Going back to your crinkled chip scenario and increasing the cross-sectional area of your solar panel.
Yep.
Does that mean that we don't lose efficiencies, or we're going to gain efficiencies on your wrapping these solar panels?
But now we actually gain efficiency. What I'm loving about this is when we started to look at how we could do it. First of all, it didn't work, and we needed to work out what the relative dimples or undulation was to be. And then once we tested and we went, okay, got it. We're getting 26 plus percentage efficiency in the vertical and horizontal. Now, one of the guys turned around and said, but now we're here in Iowa, it snows and I've got panels on the roof, and the snow gets on them. We love the snow because we don't actually work on, people don't realize we don't work on the sun at all. We could care less about the sun. We work on light waves and photons. That's what we work on. That's why we are efficient. Mother Nature's sun, yes, it's there, it's light. And the man that came up about photons is Einstein. You only have to read what Einstein, the information he put out about photons and light waves is phenomenal. And we look at that. So we're more efficient. And the cool part is that the one thing people think, I've got this big building, I want to power the whole building. No, you don't. Maybe, it's just not cost effective to do that, but there's a portion of the building that you can. For instance, if power goes down, let's take a convenience store or a gas station. What have they got to have? They've got to have power for the pumps to pump gas. They've also got to have the credit card machine, so they've got to have internet, and they need a little bit of lighting. Well, that can be very, very cost effective in the way that we can put it together for them. Now, if they want to move to the next level where they want to power everything, fine, it's entirely up to them. But we can give you bare minimum to power with a little extra to power everything. It's like somebody says, I've got an EV car, I want to be able to power my car, a Tesla, from zero to full power at my house. No, you don't. You'd have so many panels, it would be ridiculous, and the cost would be so high. But if you've got a house that you're doing, 8K or whatever it may be, and you put it up to 10, 12, you could be utilizing your car and trickle charging your car without any issues. Now, Norway has got more EV cars than anywhere else in the world. Reason being, it's not that they love EV. They got plenty of money from oil, fossil fuel. So 50% of the cars in Norway are electric cars. What then? And it's a great headline. They don't tell you this, that in the garage for all of the long journeys, they got a gas guzzler. They only use the electric car for the short trips. Yeah. So, the headlines of what we do is very demanding in, are we really telling people the truth? Or it's like the magazines that get paid 5-10 grand to write an article on a solar deal that the guy got 19% efficiency in the lab. Well, the lab is the lab. It's not reality.
Well, can we have these so they're transparent, these panels of yours, so that the sun can go through and actually, because there's a lot of glass buildings, isn't there, around, especially in London, for instance, and glass roofs, etc.
We are working on, there's issues with transparency. And the problem, here's the one issue that we're looking at it, but the biggest problem is the efficiency. The efficiency drops down dramatically. That's why if we can utilize on the structure as a vertical and a horizontal, we can do a massive, we've got no issue, but it is being looked at. We are using a system that was introduced to us. I don't like it because what they've done is say, well, if you want that, the price just goes through the roof. And we can't do that. We want to be working.
Are your products market ready then, Nicholas?
Oh gosh,
someone can come and buy some.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're supplying all day long. We have the military. How can I put? We left. By the way, we've got free panels if you want. We got a place in Afghanistan that you can go over and pick up a load of our panels that Biden left behind. We have done millions of dollars worth for the military, and we're in contract all the time with them. We are still exclusively making for them, but they gave us the right to say, well, at long last, we've done this. Why don't you now go outside and we can bring it to the rest of the industry? I mean, I've got a panel system that ends up being 5 feet by 1.5 inches and I think 11 inches wide that folds out. That panel was utilized by them, is utilized by the military for, shall we say, not going out doing a mission. They just lay the panel out or hang it on something, and they're getting power. They can power all of their computers and everything, and they have a battery system with it as well. We've got so many different things that we can do, and we will be announcing new products over the next year. We're concentrating right now, when we open the door for selling what we've done with the military, the floodgates opened. We're on about a 6 to 8 week turnaround at the moment without any issues.
Well, Nicholas, you've got some really great technologies that I can see lots of opportunities for development and actually placing into where I'm, even some of my organizations that I work with. So, I've seen some of your articles that you've been putting together on Umlic, and we really appreciate your content that you're putting in there. And I'm just wondering, at this time, is there anything you can give back to the industry regarding a takeaway for our listeners today?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is you're going to love it. Honesty. Don't be the double glazing salesman. Solar is solar, except there are differences. And it's how it can be used. I think the one thing you've got to look at is, if you are selling, we are a manufacturer. We do not sell direct, but we do discuss with government. When you're selling and marketing to residences, let's be honest with the people. But I'll tell you right now, the residences are great, but where we can make a radical difference is in the commercial world, in manufacturing plants, in office buildings. Those are right there. And when we look at the hydro or the hybrid opportunities and the nano grids, we've already done that, because when you're putting a base together outside of this country, that is, to us, is a nano grid. We've already been building them for years. So we know the pitfalls, and we also know the shortcuts. Yeah. And one of the other aspects, I just want to hit this, one of the other aspects that we do is our panel is totally waterproof. We have no issues whatsoever. Salt water doesn't get into it. We've got a company in the Netherlands that was using a Chinese panel, and it was used in the harbor where the oil tankers came in, and they needed to be able to moor at night, so they needed lighting. So they were using solar to power the lighting. Well, the panel would only last not even 6 months to a year, where our panels now, we don't care. We've got a panel that's been tested for, I think it's 6 years. I might be wrong. It might be longer, in San Diego, which is immersed in salt water, and they bring it out of the salt water every 6 months and test it. It's never failed. We can float our panels. The Navy already do that here in the United States. They float panels out there where they want to gain power to charge up the batteries if they're doing a nighttime operation. And there's one other factor. Remember, I mentioned light waves and photons? On a starlit night, our panels actually charge. Not a lot, but they accept a charge. Yeah. That's the big, big difference. So Mother Nature, we love you as a sun, but we just want lights and
moon. So obviously that's moonlight as well, is it?
Yes. Reflective, believe it or not, reflective light.
Yeah.
Anything that's got reflective light and is light waves and photons. Now it's very different. And to explain that to people, they look at you and go, what? But it's the sun. No, it's not. I mean, right now I've got lighting in here for television production, and I use LEDs, as we mentioned earlier about the LED market. Look how that's come down in price, as you said earlier. So lighting is phenomenal. And we're doing things. Oh, one other, we've got a power tower, which is on our web. We've got those in airfields. Peterborough is one I think of, where it's not a manned site. In other words, the whole airfield's run by another place 80 miles away. Well, the power tower powers cameras and information for pilots, so they can see what the heck's going on, and so can the other towers. those things run all day long and nobody has an issue. We can literally put our stuff anywhere. Power at the point of need. That's our phrase.
And that's exactly where we're going to be taking this to the next level, isn't it? That's what we need.
Yes.
Because there's loads of it. We've hit the solar across the buildings now, which have been the easy fix, you know, put it on the roof. There's hundreds and thousands of roofs. We haven't been able to do this because haven't had the load bearing, isn't in the wrong place, cannot get the return on investment because of this. But now your technologies, we're hoping, are going to give us that return on investment and the opportunities to deliver that. I think that's where we need to be regarding the industry now, isn't it?
Yeah. A crazy one. We all use voice over IP now for telephone calls. Mm-hmm. So you're a big corporation and suddenly the power goes out, but you still need to make the phone calls. Gartner made a reference that large corporations lose $50,000 a minute when they can't use their phones. Well, believe it or not, we've got what we call a mesh system. Stick it on the roof, and you power it with a solar panel. And now if the power goes out, you've still got telephones. And it's inexpensive. And to give you an idea of inexpensive, we've just done a couple of them, large buildings, and I think it was $15,000 that we did that. And the guy went, "Wait a minute, have you got that right? 15,000, not 150,000."
There's some noughts missing.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
Well, the cool part is power goes out automatically; it kicks in, and you're still getting all your phone calls. Through your normal system. We're doing things in Germany and Austria with our mesh system, which is all powered by solar, where I've got one city there in Austria, 6,000 people. They are getting their internet and their phones, because they're so remote, all through our system. And every one of those nodes that's up there is powered by solar. No electricity. We've got stuff on mountains up there that we're able to do the same thing by using solar. There's so much that we need that solar can affordably change for you and bring you back into the reality of this world.
I'm really excited about this technology and these products that you're talking about and the application that this can widely spread. So where can we look? Where can we look for more of this information? Obviously, you do appear on Umlink, you're appearing on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You have a website that we can go and target?
Oh, we have a website, and it's of course RFUSION. That's easily put there, but it's rfusion.tech. We also have an rfusion.co.uk, and lots of information. We keep that, but also if anybody's a member of LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn, and I produce a lot of articles. And I try and keep up to date, because the reason I produce those articles, it's not that those articles sit there permanently in my head. It's suddenly there's a news story. That news story breaks, and that gives me the opportunity to look at it from a logical point of view and put our perspective on it. And it comes back again to that great word you pushed. We've got to collaborate and understand one thing. Nobody knows everything. You know, Paul, you're one day going to say something to me and I'm going to go, crying out loud, that's a great idea. Because we can't all think of the possibilities. Exactly. I've got a company here, not a client of ours, one of the largest furniture warehouses that you can think of. They are putting solar on their roof of their warehouse or their marketing place, and they could not put what they wanted because of weight. They also wanted their storage and the other part of the warehouse as well. And it's such a flimsy roof. When we came along and said, we can do this, and they went, why didn't we know about you before? Well, we weren't out there at the time. But the weight difference is we were a third of the weight. That's the difference. And again, we've got to get honesty from the marketing companies and the people that realize that if you install it correctly, and by the way, we will train companies to install correctly. We're doing a massive thing in Australia right now because they are wanting to replace panels because of the fires. Silly thing. If you've got panels on your roof and you have a fire in Australia, the fire department, if the sun is shining and it's daytime, will not come and put your fire out.
I've heard this.
because water and electricity don't mix.
Doesn't mix, no.
Isn't that crazy?
That. Yeah.
And another one, here we go about fossil fuels. Remember, we're not going to get rid of fossil fuel. Tomorrow morning, you're not going to wake up and go, gone. Not going to happen. We still have a desperate need. Yeah. In Australia, where, believe it or not, their grid system doesn't even connect. It doesn't go all the way around the country. So they're not interconnected. But they put in a new desalination plant, massive plant. How are they powering it? Coal. Powering it with coal. I don't know if you know this, but Australia is the largest exporter of coal on this planet. And a government that is going down well, no, we won't go there. We've all got government issues. How is Boris? I won't do that.
I don't know. I haven't been to any of his parties lately.
No. I never get invited.
I don't get invited no more. No, Nicholas, look, it's been really great catching up with you. I'm really excited about your technologies and your products. I've got loads of people I'm going to introduce you to based on our conversation today, in Australia and in the UK. Excellent. Please keep providing this knowledge on Link. We love all these articles you're putting together. Really interesting. I think I should invite you back, and I want to talk more about your background in the police, because obviously, me being ex-Met Police, we could talk forever, I'm sure, about the subjects around renewables and energy management. It's been an absolute pleasure having you talking to us today.
It's been a pleasure, Paul. We need to do this more often, and certainly 10-minute little sections would be great. I sent you an article that is going up on LinkedIn today. Because we are onward and upward. That is what we're doing. We've got to do that. And sustainability is there if people only understood what we mean by sustainability. Yeah.
And the underlining thing from this today is collaboration is important. And lastly, I want to say the sum is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what we're trying to do here. Bring everything together. So thank you, Nicholas, for today. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
And please, Nicholas, you and your family, please be safe in these times.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate and enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's just after 4 o'clock with you. Notice I've got time clocks everywhere. So
your world clock, so you know exactly what time it is. So brilliant.